If you've been part of the general gaming sphere for the past half a year, you most likely have at least a small impression of the next Sonic game, Sonic Frontiers. This impression most likely includes how shite the gameplay looks, how bad the pop-in is, how it looks like someone put a Sonic model into a Unity field and shoved a stick up his ass. But for those in the Sonic fanbase, this past year has been an absolute roller coaster. So, for the sake of those uninvested, or if you just need a rebriefing, today I want to show you how Sonic Frontiers earned its negative reputation, and even how it slowly rebuilt it into a positive one. I'm DI.
And you're watching DI Channel.
And today I'm going to be giving you a deep dive into SEGA's marketing for Sonic Frontiers, from the perspective of someone who has no idea how to market, but has also been an avid, in-depth fan of the little blue wendigo for as long as they can remember. So my apologies if I dive just a little too deep. Now, to do what I need to do, we must go back in time. Since the beginning of time, around the late 2000s, Sonic the Hedgehog has had a strange relationship with the public. For many nowadays, if you were to show them an image of Big Blue, they would most likely be able to name the sweet little boy. However, with that recognizability and iconic silhouette has always come a deadly stigma. While it's difficult to pinpoint the exact origin of this stigma, it's easy to conclude that it was slowly birthed by its infamously doomed entries throughout the mid-2000s and nailed into its coffin by Wii U system seller Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric. The minor fumble that started with 2003's Sonic Heroes, turned quadruple faceplant barrel roll by 2006's Sonic the Hedgehog, turned steady jog by 2011's Sonic Generations, and utterly annihilated by 2014's Sonic the Lost World. While the quality of the games produced throughout this era varied, some being hidden gems now widely appreciated throughout the fanbase for their distinct positives, and others who deserved their comeuppance, it was a consistent trend to absolutely dunk on this franchise for a very, very long time. This trend was only perpetuated by the attitude of various online outlets and creators across the board, leaking into the general public's basic understanding of our titular rodent. Over the years, and even throughout some people's whole lives, it felt like the most embarrassing thing you could do in any public space was be outed as a Sonic fan. You'd be teased, mocked, silently judged, or you'd misinterpret signals that somebody was just messing with you because you were under the assumption you were being personally attacked for liking that stupid hedgehog from the internet. Definitely not speaking from personal experience. To fast forward a bit, here we are at 2016's 25th anniversary celebration event, as Iizuka leaves the stage with the promise that 2 new Sonic the Hedgehog games are releasing in 2017. Fan hype and expectations are through the roof. Over the course of 2016 and 2017, we are to learn more of Sonic Mania and the later titled Sonic Forces. Sonic Mania, released in August of 2017 to widespread critical acclaim, endlessly praised for its beautiful visuals, intelligent level design, orgasmic soundtrack, and much, much more. This was clearly a game driven by fans for fans. 3 months later, Sonic Forces releases and...
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So yeah, Sonic Forces wasn't so good. But that game's marketing is very important to understanding the marketing of Frontiers. From early to late 2017, the marketing campaign for Sonic Forces went a little like this. Reveal/teaser trailer at the 25th anniversary party under the guise of Project 2017. First gameplay reveal around March 2017 at South by Southwest revealing the title, followed by a slow but steady lineup of trailers, demos, music drops, and cross-promotions, yes, this is real, until the eventual release of the game in November. Now, The reason I bring all of this history up is because I believe it's important to understand the past patterns of this franchise and its expectations, so that it's easier to put the pieces together when applying it to Frontiers. Sonic Frontiers' marketing technically began in mid-2021 with a short, beautifully animated teaser of Sonic Team's next big project, advertising a 2022 release date. From the very beginning, this had people concerned, as it was already possible to draw parallels between the reveals of Sonic Forces and this new project. Both games suddenly teased to us a short, cryptic CGI trailer, ending with a strange symbol confirmed to have something to do with the game, coming a fair few years after the previous project, signaling that it had taken a long time to settle on the idea for the next game, let alone develop it. I believe this concern was important to have, for the sake of recognizing either when a project is going to turn out poorly, and for the sake of being able to criticize it before it's too late. In the eyes of the fans, such a cryptic and unrevealing tease meant a lack of confidence in the game itself. At the end of the day, this was admittedly a very paranoid worry. While there were parallels, it is also worth acknowledging that most AAA games are to be teased this way to generate speculation and excitement. I mean, Super Mario Odyssey was revealed to us through a bloody TV screen and a random shot of the Nintendo Switch's reveal trailer. There's nothing special for new games and popular franchises to be secretive and cryptic about their reveals. Nope. In the grand scheme of things, what really had people worried was what would be discovered almost immediately after the trailer was dropped. I don't know how or why this was somebody's impulse, but it might have just saved or doomed us. As it turns out, in the metadata for the teaser trailer, the word ranges could be found scattered throughout it. A very odd bit of info. The reason this was important was because a 4chan leak, yes, I know 4chan leak, just stay with me here, from January of 2021, 5 entire months before this reveal, titled its leaked game, Sonic Ranges. That strange boost effect Sonic had in the trailer appeared very similar to the spin cycle ability mentioned in the 4chan leak. On top of this, the claimed Breath of the Wild inspiration matched that of the realistic aesthetic of the CGI trailer, standing in stark contrast to the style of Sonic games prior. Now, there were much more convincing factors that led to this leak being treated as fact, but if I'm being fully honest, I can't exactly remember every little detail. Either or, at this point, people were convinced that the new Sonic game for 2022 was going to be an open-world game with a cool spin cycle attached and a new combat focus named Sonic Ranges. So, while all this news was interesting to say the least, I think it was clear to many that their opinion of the game had already been soured by the fact that it looked like Sonic Team, or SEGA, had yet again disabled the ability for the development team to take their time with this one, meaning we would be left with a clunky and uninspired and broken game. While sure, things were subject to change, it didn't help quell people's cynicism and worry for the upcoming game. After all, it was supposed to be so much bigger and better than what we had just received prior. What was there not to be concerned about, considering Sonic Team's track record? So fast forward to December of 2021, and so far we haven't heard a single peep from SEGA about our supposed Sonic Ranges. Needless to say, people were on the edge of their seats over how this next amalgamation of a Sonic game might turn out. At least there were some stupid 4chan threads riding off of the success of the January leak to keep us entertained, not even calling it Sonic Frontiers. How stupid. We all know this new open world game is going to be called Sonic Ranges. Get out of here with your Demon Slayer inspired combat. So, as it turns out, this new game is going to be open world.
Oh, sorry, I meant open zone. I'm so sorry, Asuka-san. It's okay.
Crazy, right? Who knew? Anyway, as usual, this trailer exhibited a mostly unanimous concerned excitement from the fanbase. While the trailer was certainly intriguing, we didn't get to see any actual moving gameplay, and the footage ran worse than a 3-year-old laptop opening Google Chrome. Also,
Is that the
f***ing Forces model? His quills are short! What the fuck? Yeah, that was a controversy. Look, as somebody who was actually, you know, there, I can say this isn't how the discourse went down at all. It's just up to Twitter to bastardize itself with every word uttered. This discourse started out as disappointment in the continued use of the widely disliked Sonic Forces Sonic model. Then it evolved into people mutating that disappointment by arguing about the length of Sonic's quills, which turns into its own mutated argument in which anyone involved was patronized, only for that to then become the main arguing point. For those out of the loop, this is how all Twitter drama works, especially for Sonic the Hedgehog. Past all that, however, the state of Sonic Frontiers among the fanbase at this time was, man, looks interesting. I hope it's not as bad as Forces. This mentality, while confusingly cynical from an outside perspective maybe, was a very warranted mindset among Sonic fans. For years, fans were fed with focused games, only to change to experiment after experiment, only for Sonic Team to then return to its roots by playing it safe, with a game that didn't understand what made its inspirations so skillfully executed and highly praised. The fans were conditioned to repeatedly expect the Sonic cycle in which a game would be revealed, hyped up, and then died down on once more gameplay was shown, signaling that Sonic Team had entered yet another new, misunderstood horse into the race, with guns, the werehog, the sword, the wisps, the list goes on. While most of these gameplay changes were just fine, and nothing to be concerned over back in that era, it told people that Sonic Team didn't know how to find something that worked and stick to it. So, after the used bathroom of game design that was Sonic Forces, a game that took 4 years to develop and release as a response to the mixed reception of Sonic Lost World's experimental nature, really can't blame people for believing Sonic Team had yet again wasted their time experimenting with something new, without understanding how to flesh it out into a coherent game, as they had done so many times before. July 1st, 2022. Sonic Social's shadow drop a 40-second trailer for IGN First, advertised to be fully revealed the next day. This was our first glimpse at gameplay for the new Sonic game coming out in just 6 months. Needless to say, we were going to analyze every frame of this to see what we could find and critique. And boy, did we. Fans were all over this game like a Domino's worker over a $5 tip. While this gameplay reveal was undoubtedly exciting, it was also, unfortunately, very concerning.
Why are his animations so goddamn janky?
Why are there random low-poly rails just floating in the sky?
Man, first enemy we see and it's clearly just automated garbage.
Are they seriously doing this?
As you can imagine, there was some baggage to be dealt with. At this point, it had been 4.5 years since the last mainline game, and fans had hoped that Sonic Team would be truly taking their time and refining this new game, making a reasonably high-quality product. But the impression gained from this reveal, and especially the later IGN First gameplay, had told us otherwise. Now, it's worth taking a step back and considering this from a more neutral perspective. In reality, yeah, this was whatever. I mean, what else can be said? It was about 30 seconds of random gameplay, simply teasing what we would soon see in full. Surely the full reveal coming tomorrow would be more comprehensive, giving us a rhyme and a reason to this game we know nothing about, right? Right? The IGN first gameplay reveals for Sonic Frontiers, both 7-minute videos, are by far the worst gameplay trailers. No, worst showcases for a video game I have ever seen. I struggle to put into words just how horrible this event was, both as a marketing promo stunt and as a gameplay trailer. It was like watching a cute little puppy get its head slowly run over by a 4-wheel drive. This was IGN for crying out loud. It's an understatement to say that all eyes were on Sonic Frontiers. Yet, to celebrate that attention, SEGA honestly thought this would be the best way to reveal, demonstrate, and show off their new child. Directionless, unexplained, out of context, buggy, unpolished, inaccurate gameplay. So bad it's as if they were trying to show the game off in its worst possible state. I find it hard to believe that this was an honest choice made by people who know what they're doing, and not someone actively trying to blow this game's head off before it even got out of the womb. Force the game to be dead on arrival. So, DI, how could this reveal be that bad? Really, it's only demonstrative gameplay from an unfinished build of the game. Surely it's nothing offensive. And to that, I'd like to say, you're absolutely right. Because while it was a huge deal at the time, what with having this be the state of the game after so long, the problem with this reveal wasn't just the buggy, roofied gameplay. No. It's the expectation and general consensus it set for the game, and the stigma that would force itself to stick around, just like any other game that doesn't get its second chance. Allow me to explain. On the days in which IGN First's premiere footage aired, including just the teaser trailer from the Sonic socials, those videos hit the top of trending for a while. This was a big deal. Like I said, all eyes were on Sonic. You grabbed the internet's whole attention, and this was what you had to show for it. The reaction was bad, real bad. Videos from popular content creators outright slamming the game for looking like doggy doo-doo, saying it looked like a fan game. It looked aimless, empty, boring, tedious, embarrassing. And the sad thing is, they weren't really wrong. This was Sonic Frontiers' chance, and SEGA blew it. For at least a while until the game would get more coverage, this was all we had, and that was really demotivating. We are not done though, for this was just the public reaction. Now we ask, what were the fans' reactions? You know, the fans of the franchise that was just put on #1 trending, in hype for their brand new Sonic game to eat up like Radical Soda when he sees Afterbirth? Surely they're excited, right?
Hello, Procrastinator Sam here, and it is the time we have all been waiting for. It is time for us to finally see the 7-minute gameplay of Sonic Frontiers that everyone has been dying to see. I have been too, especially after yesterday's preview teaser. This is very slow. Randomly stopped running to climb? It's very... I'm worried. Chad, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of worried. All month long. Well, that's the gameplay. All month long. I feel like I'm supposed to be jumping out of my seat in excitement, but I'm not. And I don't know if that's necessarily my fault. Okay. Changed my mind. Here we go. Got this ball enemy. turning red. Oh, it's a light.
You know, for such a beloved, neutrally standing and optimistic guy like Sam, to have no more than a disappointed look on his face, just screaming concern and crumbling hopes and dreams, only seconds into your game being revealed to the world, I think that should tell you everything. I'm sure no one was happy about what this attempt at marketing looked like it meant for the game we were supposed to be getting. What's worse is that this dissatisfied reaction somehow got Sam a lot of hate, too. Some people genuinely believed he was a hater on the inside and trying to tear Sonic down, ruin other people's hype, when this was just a man trying to put together the pieces left for us. It was a good reminder of how loud the worst parts of a fanbase can be sometimes. Ironic, isn't it? To tilt our heads back up for a moment, not all was awful. Even I was able to get some semblance of optimism out of these reveals after stepping back and attempting to absorb myself into what this game was trying to show me. A difficult feat, mind you, considering that this gameplay was still aimless and out of context. But no matter. At the time, if you were feeling generous, you could gather that this would be a freely controlling Sonic game, with a mysterious world to explore and signature high-speed style, with enemies you could take on and a mildly engaging combat system. At its very worst, I suppose you could rely on this game being mid. Just like always, fans were left on what looked like a very sour note. Some good stuff, some bad stuff, and a lot of just dissatisfaction all around.
Spin dash into a new zone.
29th of June, 2022. Fans are anticipating the next Frontiers trailer, scheduled soon, and it's handed to them like ice cream. Somehow, the Sonic Frontiers Nintendo Switch trailer breathed new life into this game, and instilled hope in those who were weary. How? It's very simple. This time, we were given a trailer! An actual trailer that simply ran down the game's core elements. Crazy, I know. Here, we were introduced to the aspect of cyberspace. Short, linear levels supplementary to the open world, inspired by the Boost era of games. We were also teased a CGI cutscene, depicting a small, childlike humanoid hovering next to a humongous titan, with Sonic powerless on the ground. Most notably, however, the music that accompanied this footage was something fans were dying to hear. The familiar sound of intense guitar and booming drums. An anthem that truly hit you in the face with its high-octane rhythm. It was a breath of fresh, familiar air in this already dying game that had nothing to show for itself. Now, what I believe helped this trailer stand out as much as it did wasn't just its solid, airtight pacing and quick-witted info, but also the context surrounding it. Things on the internet moved quickly, even if this point in time felt like a total slog. On the 14th of June, quite a while before the Switch trailer, we were blessed to receive 5 whole minutes of high-quality, 60 FPS gameplay uploaded by a difficult-to-find source, intended to be B-roll for SEGA. This footage was completely detached from the ongoing IGN First videos and showcased a multitude of graphics and stability improvements, as well as, most noticeably, intelligently played combat and exploration. Clearly, whatever this footage was, it was taken from a much newer build and a better player than the IGN First footage. Where the combat of the actual combat trailer looked stiff, floaty, janky, and simple, the combat in these clips was smooth, thoughtful, satisfying, fleshed out, and most importantly, fun. Actually fun. So that I can attempt to explain how this difference swayed opinions and began the Frontiers Renaissance, let's run through the combat system together. I'll be analyzing each enemy we've been shown, as well as the way you may engage them to fully understand the combat of Sonic Frontiers. Before we begin the analysis, it's just important to note that a lot of the solid info I talk about here comes from sources we would receive at a date far after June's showcases, like the overview and combat overview trailers. Normally I'd stay chronological and only refer to what we know at the specific dates referred in the video, but for here it's kind of essential that we discuss the things we know rather than purely going off of uninformed observation. In Frontiers, Sonic can do a full, linear combo of punches and kicks, performed by repeatedly pressing X or square. This linear combo is very flexible. It can be cancelled into a dodge roll or parry, a special move, or finished off with one of 4 finishing attacks, chosen by the direction you push the left stick. On top of his basic attacks, we have unlockable special moves from the skill tree, attained by leveling up and purchasing new moves, such as the Psy Loop, which grants Sonic an extra method of approaching combat and puzzle solving all around the island. After the Psy Loop, the moves you unlock will act as ultimates, which you can unleash with button combinations, or combat modifiers that change how Sonic fights. For example, there's the Wild Rush, a move that sees Sonic zigzagging towards the opponent in midair, finally landing in on a devastating drill-like blow. Then you have the Phantom Rush, a meter that fills up with the more hits you land, when filled, allowing you to zoom around your opponent at high speeds like a Dragon Ball afterimage, landing hits just like the regular basic combo but with heightened damage and very little vulnerability. These are just small examples of the moves you can unlock. After the main combat kit, you have extra moves like the dodge roll and the parry. The dodge roll is pretty simple. If you press either of the bumpers either on the ground or in midair, you can jump out of the way of an enemy's attack, indicated by a visual and audio cue similar to the Batman Arkham games. For the parry, if you press both bumpers simultaneously right as an enemy attacks, you'll deflect their movement, stunning them in place and applying a witch time slowdown effect, with varying effects on different enemies, like the banger, who will be launched away to explode in the distance. All of this and more is only a piece of what's in store for Frontiers' combat system, as there's plenty of options for evolving and adapting it over the course of the game. Now, onto the enemies themselves. After all, what's a good combat system if you can't apply it to any challenge? Well, let's look at the combat trailer. Here, we're shown a floating ball enemy that does nothing but sit there and float towards you, occasionally projecting a field that hurts you if you attack, acting in very, very simple patterns. The way the player plays here is clunky and slow, with no haste or alterations in their gameplay, somehow waiting long enough between attacks for Sonic to just idle in midair, but fast enough to send out another attack as he falls, just so that his animations look like weird garbage. Randomly dawdling around, the player is showcasing an unfocused, boring, and mindless playstyle, doing nothing to adapt to the enemy's strategy, or take it out in any distinct fashion. Next, we're shown yet another textbook example of a sit and wait for them to expose themselves enemy. Here, you must either Psy Loop around them to discard their armored plating, or attack them while they send it out to attack you. It's an extremely repetitive, sluggish, and unengaging fight, where you're in no danger, with no risk-reward aspect unless you're stupid enough to try and do a full combo in their short state of voluntary vulnerability. So far, this combat and these enemies are just nothing. Simply more of the same uninspired jank and mediocre mess that we saw in yesterday's trailer. There's some cool special moves, I guess, but nothing to use them on in an engaging manner. Just sit and wait, doing the same 1-2 combo shit over and over again. Meanwhile, in the 5-minute compilation, here we're fighting the Tower, a very straightforward enemy with a nuanced method of attack and defense. The tower has a spinning ring which ascends and descends its body, repelling you if it touches you, but not doing any damage. The tower also jumps around, hovering in the air and smashing into the ground, also firing projectiles which you must avoid while orienting yourself and keeping an eye on the enemy. When it lands, there's your window to attack as much as you can, whittling down its length, staying away from its spinning ring, and avoiding its projectile bombers. You may also use the Psy Loop when it's planted in the ground to remove a single layer at a time. The player here utilizes good combinations of dodges, mid-air combos, Psy Loops, and more to defeat the enemy with haste, skill, and style. The difference in how the game looks when it's played properly is night and day in comparison to the IGN footage. So why they didn't use this outright flattering gameplay to demonstrate the potential of combat is just beyond me. Right after this, we're shown a short but sweet encounter with the Banger, an enemy which charges you on sight to kamikaze when it touches you. Sonic instantly disposes of it with a parry, sending it off to splooge somewhere else. This was the first we saw of the parry, as it wasn't shown to us in the combat trailer. just a reinstatement that multiple essential tools in Sonic's combat kit had to be shown to us by some random guy uploading clips on his own, and not the company advertising said kit. Lovely. Back to the combat trailer, here we are shown Asura, one of the mini-bosses of Kronos Island. Looking back on this boss, it's unfortunate that it had to be shown in the same context as the other abysmal fights, giving it the unstable impression it left us with. To fight Asura, you must either climb its body manually, or wait for it to slam an arm down into the ground so that you may scale it, supported by boost rings. Once at the top, you must attack one of 3 cores on its head, defeating Asura when all 3 are destroyed. After destroying a core, you're sent hurtling down to the ground, where you must repeat the process. This sounds like an incredibly boring and uninspired loop, and it certainly looks like it in gameplay. However, upon retrospect, you'll find much more nuance in this boss than you first realized. After each core is destroyed, the journey atop Asura becomes more and more difficult, deploying moving electric barriers around the cores which you must approach carefully to avoid, and sending out reversed boost rings along with the normal ones when one of its arms are slammed down. Asura in this clip looks like a slog to traverse, with extremely janky terrain physics and inconsistent movement physics to say the least. That is, until you realize that the whole challenge of Asura is ascending its arms against the climbing tides of its difficult terrain and reverse boost rings. The whole point is that it's increasingly difficult to challenge, even if the combat pattern is very simple. There's even little bonuses you're rewarded for thinking outside the box, like doing a side loop around its feet, granting you extra portal gears. You can clearly see there was thought put into this boss, and how Sonic's moveset in particular could challenge it, as well as vice versa. Now, overall, do I think Asura looks like some amazing boss? Not really. I think it looks fairly repetitive, and the automation of the boost rings really just ruins it for me. That said, I simply still think it has some merit, and that's why I wanted to discuss it with you. Alas, one small win in an absolute sludge-fest of gameplay. Moving on. Back to the 5-minute compilation, here we see the Ninja, a slick, quick, and defensive mini-boss who only attacks at close range. In order to challenge it, you must get in its face, attacking conservatively and timing your dodges to circle around its directional shield and combo attacks, which you must also strategically avoid. The challenge here isn't as complex as the tower, but it is still appreciable nonetheless. This boss is a test of your quick wits, your timing, and your essential combat. It's perfect for the beginning of the game,
And obviously throughout the other islands.
where it is situated. Back to IGN, we have a clip of Sonic coming across some smaller, regular goons, simply named Soldiers. These guys are awesome. They have sick designs, just like all the other enemies, and they would seem to serve as great fodder grind enemies to help keep you on your toes and your abilities sharp. Nothing bad to say about these guys, and the player in this clip is playing like they're actually excited to be here. And that's the combat analysis. Overall, I think the combat looks really damn fun. It's easy to grasp, but engaging, with each enemy challenging different aspects of your arsenal. You must improvise and develop multiple on-the-fly strategies to deal with enemies efficiently and stylishly, keeping the pace of the game flowing with speedy and satisfying abilities. It's just unfortunate that none of those qualities were shown when the game was showcased with the most eyes watching. It's a shame that the most important advertising was unable to do its job. By now, we know that wasn't on the fault of the game being lackluster or hollow, but a genuine, brain-meltingly stupid decision by the marketing department. So, let's say it's about mid-July. Sonic Frontiers has essentially vanished from public memory, having its news coverage complete, and the only impression it ever left on most average people who were curious enough to go and see how the new Sonic game was looking was, wow, this looks amateur. Another L for Sonic as usual. Sadly, I feel that the most infuriating part about this entire campaign wasn't the fact that everybody associated thought this was a good idea to crap out, but the fact that it could have been different. For all we know, more dense promotion like the Nintendo Direct trailer may have been ready to go as early as late May, but instead, the lonely and clueless IGN first coverage was on its own to fend for itself for all of June, wandering around like a lost kid in Target, only being supported by other coverage long after it died. Thanks to obviously unmodifiable NDAs and partnering schedules with other companies, what could have been an ingenious assault of Frontiers news and content, all coming out around the same time to do nothing but boost itself upwards, was instead a sad, dusty fart of treadmill run content, just sluggishly pushed out like a stubborn turd. My point is, imagine how things could have changed if that Nintendo Direct gameplay trailer was actually released a couple days after the world premiere. If the press demo for the game wasn't f***ing embargoed until the end of the month. Imagine all the info fans and online creators would have to chow down on and absorb before making a video about it being horrible. Being able to see and understand more of the full picture rather than absolutely nothing but a depressing little dribble of it. For Christ's sake, you don't show your game to the public by deliberately cutting out 2/3 of the entire gameplay formula. That'd be like if they showed off Sonic Adventure 2 to the public by only showing us Tails' mech stages. It might not be that bad, but if it's all there is, then what kind of substance is anyone meant to derive from it? At the end of the day, despite how it was spread, the content was there for us. They just had absolutely no idea how to distribute it. And I think that's the most agonizing part about all of this. Of course, you have to space out your marketing, but to send it out like this? It's just voluntary suicide. Like I said, the internet moves fast. I suppose just too fast for the blue blur to keep up. So, it's late August, and us fans exclusively are pumped to see how Frontiers shows itself off on Gamescom Opening Night Live. In the time between June and now, fans have had the chance to reflect upon info published by a variety of news articles, detailing much more than IGN First could have ever dreamed. At this point, it's safe to say we know these things: the beginning of the story, the characters involved, the world we're exploring, the gameplay loop, the overall game structure, the approximate and average length of the game, accessibility options, and Sonic's control. This is such an overwhelmingly substantial amount of content to absorb that it's hard to grasp the fact we started without any of it. Just Sonic running around in an empty field with janky animations and hop-in. Anybody somehow interested in this game up to this point had to wait upwards of 2 months just to know what they should even be interested for. Anything on top of just, oh, well, he runs around and punches things, I guess. So, in honor of that, why don't we just cover what we know up to this point? We've already taken a deep dive into the combat, which is a massive contributing factor, so we should just as equally cover the rest of the game's parts. Starting off on the story, Sonic, Tails, and Amy are aboard the Tornado approaching the Starfall Islands in search of the missing Chaos Emeralds. Due to some kind of digital barrier outside the Starfall Islands, the plane becomes unstable and the gang enters cyberspace. Afterwards, we awaken as Sonic in the middle of who knows where on what is known to us as Kronos Island. After regaining his senses, he is called out by a disembodied, robotic voice, commending him for escaping cyberspace, a supposedly impossible feat. He is labeled as the Key and instructed to destroy the Titans, tear down the walls between dimensions. Sonic notes that some direction is better than none, and gets moving. This is a great way to kick off a story with mystery and intrigue. Based on what we knew up to that point, it only incited more dot connecting, sparking unknown feelings like excitement and interest by presenting us with questions we don't have the answers to, but will have to stay tuned for. Next, there's the gameplay loop. By putting everything together, it goes a little something like this. In the open world, you're exploring the island, fighting enemies, collecting Cocos, solving puzzles, accepting side quests, unlocking new places to explore, and challenging mini-bosses of a wide variety. So far, these mini-bosses include Asura, the Ninja, the Flyer, the Tower, and many more unknown enemies. Upon defeat, or by performing certain actions, these enemies drop portal gears. The portal gears are then used to unlock and access the many cyberspace portals located around the island. While we don't know how many there really are, it's safe to say there's a hefty supply. Inside of these cyberspace stages, you're completing a multitude of goals within a boost-style level, with each goal completed rewarding a vault key. These vault keys are then used to help unlock the Chaos Emerald vaults, completing the island after collecting all 7. After this, you'll be able to face a true boss battle of sorts. After defeating it, you'll be booted to the next island and robbed of your emeralds. All things considered, this sounds like a very solid gameplay formula. I think it works harmoniously with the multiple explorable areas gameplay style, as well as working for story purposes. For the first time in a long time, this gameplay loop actively enables an engaging story to be told as you take things at your own pace. Speaking of the story, that's also an extremely important thing to talk about in regard to Sonic fans' excitement for the game. So, let's get into it. The main thing that has people excited for the story of Sonic Frontiers is its writer, Ian Flynn. If you don't know, Ian Flynn is a very well-known writer for the Sonic franchise, finding his footing in the Archie comic days and moving on to the IDW comics when those began. Ian Flynn is heralded amongst the fanbase as one of the few people who know not just how to write a story correctly, but to write Sonic the Hedgehog correctly. This is so important to fans because in 2010, and the decade following, Sonic's old writer, Shiro Maekawa, was booted out of Sonic Team and replaced with the infamous Pontac and Graf, unanimously disliked for their inability to tell stories with coherency or complexity, as well as their bastardization of every Sonic character they write. Ever since their recruitment, Sonic and Friends were transformed from their honest, meaningful, and nuanced characters into parodies of what they once were. Sonic, from a righteous adventurer with a strong heart, free-spirited nature, and a bit of attitude, to an unfunny asshole constantly spouting cringy one-liners about nose hairs and boiled eggs. Tails, from a kind, insecure genius who had learned how to make strengths out of his differences and become his own person, to a sarcastic know-it-all who does nothing but follow Sonic around and spread his ass cheeks to any sense of danger. Knuckles, from an antisocial, gullible guardian, willing to devote himself to what he believes is right, and finding new purpose in his friends, to a dim-witted, muscle-brained goofball. I believe I've said my point, but the endgame here is that with a writer who knows how to depict these characters, it not only enables us as fans to finally have the heroes we recognize, but it also enables the ability for writers to tell an engaging story that resonates with the player on an emotional level. After all, what is a story without relatable and complex characters to tell it? That is what this franchise has been missing for years, and it's beyond exciting to know it'll finally be coming back in the hands of people who can make it happen. So, we've hit August 23rd, which means Gamescom is here, kicking off with a wonderfully presented story trailer for Sonic Frontiers. We're surprised with a buttload of gorgeous CGI cutscenes, depicting the tension between Sonic and the antagonist Sage. This little girl here is actually the same little bug we saw in the Nintendo trailer, now fully unveiled to us beyond press renders. The trailer also introduces to us Amy, trapped inside a sinister cyberspace cage. This trailer was met with overjoyed reactions from fans, praising its expressive animation, unrestricted storytelling, and even small things like Sonic's body language and serious attitude. Once again, another breath of fresh air for this game and its publicity. I believe that, for the public, this was the true beginning of the turning point. It's ironic, I think. Standing in stark contrast to the first wave of widespread promotion, this far later wave of promo is what actually set a sliver of intrigue into those outside the Sonic fanbase. The only thing that topped it and resurrected Sonic Frontiers' reputation to many of us was the Gamescom public demo. I think the weeks after August 23rd may have been the best time I've had as a Sonic fan on the internet ever, because for the rest of August, it was an honest-to-God onslaught of off-screen recordings of our beloved baby public demo. Video after video of the first 15 minutes of the game to absolutely bathe yourself in. What a time to be excited. Reception from those who played the game at Gamescom was pretty much universally, wow, that was good. Better than I expected, which meant that more of the public was finally getting to see what this game could do, even if only the first quarter hour. Anything over those IGN first reveals is a win in my book. What really hit the rest of us, though, was an autosave bug that conflicted with the timer of the demo, letting people continue their games after the intended cutoff point. If we weren't being bombarded with clips and content before, we were absolutely being drowned in it now. Funnily enough, I think this unintentional bug, allowing more of the game to be revealed, only did the game a service. Getting to see more cutscenes and story events, discoverable little tidbits and details, it was really refreshing. It almost felt like the game was finally here, like we were being allowed to see more and more of what we were excited for. Thanks to some Indian tech gods, we were even able to get sound for little bits of the game. This included the opening cutscene and the rest of the regular demo. This gave us a good look at Roger's new voice direction for the game, and I gotta say, I'm impressed.
Tails? Amy? Oh. Looks like I'm the only one who made it out of that. Whatever it was.
Portal,
Ugh! Hello?
you have done the impossible. You have escaped cyberspace with your own power. You are the key.
Key, huh? Sure beats being called a rodent. Are you saying I can rescue my friends?
Find the Chaos Essence. Destroy the Titans. Tear down the walls between dimensions.
Yeah, okay, sure. How about a little context? Hello? Oh well. Some direction is better than none. Here we go.
And I'm glad that was also the general consensus. Whether you like him as Sonic or not, I think he definitely sounds more natural here than he ever has. Less obnoxious and nose-clogged like all of his other Sonic games, especially Colors and Lost World. This time, it sounds like a very naturally spoken, smooth voice, even if personally unfitting for Sonic. It's a good demonstration of what Roger can do under the right direction and right management. At the same time, however, there was also some tension between fans regarding a very sour spot for the game. The cyberspace levels playable in the demo seem to very often borrow level design from other stages, from other games. Looking back at this now, I don't really think it's that big a deal. But I understand why people reacted harshly to seeing this game go relatively smooth, only to have what looked like a really lazy development choice on our hands. I know I was pretty much over my head. After all, we were expecting new levels out of these cyberspace stages. Even if we were getting returning level themes, the least we could want was new level designs to play through. I mean, seriously, imagine the possibilities you have with a literal digital dimension where any amount of corruption to reality is possible. Unfortunately, that's kind of just left up to the backgrounds, which I'll admit are absolutely gorgeous. But seriously, reusing level themes is one thing. Copy-pasting level design just seemed like such a bizarre and lazy choice to go with. It felt like a slap in the face to those who wanted to see such an interesting concept used, well, interestingly. At the end of the day, I don't exactly mind this choice being the case for cyberspace. The agreed consensus up to this point is that they'll basically be like the special stages of the game. A quick pace breaker to shake things up and complete quick challenges before you head back into the open world. And I think in this use case, it's okay. Not preferred, but not keyboard slammingly agonizing. Even if we didn't get brand new stuff for it, I can live with that, because it's only a small slice of the game and not the majority of the cake. That majority belongs to the new frontiers we'll be reaching in the open zones. It lives as an accent to the main experience, a small challenge rather than the entire focus. Content being on the side doesn't excuse it being lower quality, and I definitely think cyberspace is low quality, but I do believe that these creative choices are somewhat, perhaps mostly justified in this specific use case, and it doesn't massively hamper my opinion of the game because of that. It does take it down, but not all the way. Unfortunately, or more fortunately if you were worried about spoilers, this bug was quickly patched, and even though it had been patched, Gamescom still outright banned all recording of the game. Yeah, talk about being real party shitters. Thanks, Gamescom. Now we'll never get our footage not recorded by a drunken, belligerent goblin with a Nokia flip phone taped to his snapback cap. But, no matter. Frontiers still got some of its rep back, and attendees were still able to enjoy the game, so I'd count Gamescom this year as quite a fat W for Sonic fans. So, it's early September and Gamescom finished quite a while ago. Now it's up to Sonic Socials to pick up the slack, finally. Luckily for us, Lord Hedgehog above would grant us a neat little overview trailer, basically recapping what we had learned in the previous months. It was a good reminder of the track we're on, as well as the overall scope of the game. All we can do is wish that they had started out with this early on, rather than leaving people to simply guess what the hell they were smoking over there. But that news would pale in comparison to the content we'd receive on September 7th, a brand new song unveiled for the game, Vandalize, in collaboration with One Ok Rock, a very popular J-pop band. Ask any guy that heard this song and they'll tell you it feels like an edgy 2000s AMV, and at this point, we're all for that. This was the turnaround fans were hoping for. The inclusion of this song represents the era we're traveling back to for this game. like a return to form. While it's obviously corny as hell, this unapologetically serious tone is what the Sonic fanbase has been thirsting for since, well, ever since. What a wonderful addition to the OST, with its focused rock feel and pleasant, albeit cheesy lyrics. Thankfully, we didn't get much rest, because 2 days later, Sonic Socials would finally unveil the main theme for the game, the one teased to us by the Nintendo trailer, I'm Here, in collaboration with 2 Octavia, a very niche band situated in Australia, where I'm from. Neat. While it's difficult for me to describe music in words to an audience, the most unanimous description you'll receive for these 2 songs are shonen anime, edgy, and 2000s. And I'm so glad that's where we are. The absolutely ground-smashing 9-string guitar Tomoya Otani employed here is just spine-tingling. That main motif is everything I want to hear from an intense guitar track, as well as the interesting lyrics and alternative rhythm of the song, even if it's just a short edit. I'm pumped to hear the full version of I'm Here whenever that drops, if not just in-game. To continue the trend of having content shoved down my throat the way I wish it was in June, July, and August, seriously, I bet my gay friends are just foaming out the mouth, on September 14th, we'd receive a TGS trailer for Frontiers. This trailer showcased us a brand new island, taking place on and around a gigantic volcano, Chaos Island. On top of this and Aris Island, the desert island we've seen a little of, it's really intriguing being able to check out more and more of what the game has in store for us. It squashes the notion that this game is just a generic open-world Green Plains copy-paste by showing us unique, albeit stereotypical environments, with their own intriguing twists and turns in the way of the archaeologically infected terrain. Towards the end of the trailer, we're finally shown the Titan of Kronos in full HD, Giganto, giving us a fully in-depth look at his wonderfully unsettling design. The sheer proportions of its body, its pulsating, almost breathing metal skin, and its disturbing, shifting sets of teeth-like assets. After Sonic scales its body, he retrieves the final Chaos Emerald from atop its head, and transforms into Super Sonic, who looks dazzling in this game. He finally looks like an in-game version of Unleashed's CGI Super Sonic. This transformation confirms to us that we will be recollecting the 7 Chaos Emeralds and transforming into a supersonic boss fight at the end of each island, giving proper credence to the idea of a brand new, Frontiers-only transformation for Sonic, presumably being covered in the digitally corrupted effect we see on Sage, the Titans, and even Sonic in the Gamescom story trailer. So, just a little editor's note. While I was mid-editing this chapter, SEGA actually dropped the combat overview trailer called the Combat and Upgrades trailer. I don't really have much to say about this, other than it's really nice to see more and more of the combat, and it just looks amazing. And I'm loving all the moves Sonic can pull off. Apart from that, there's just really not much to say, because we've already kind of gone over everything. So, it's September 16th, and us, the community, have had a long time to absorb and reflect upon what we're in for. The place I currently sit with on this game is optimistic and realistic excitement. I have no more expectations than what I've been shown, and what the game should reasonably lead me to believe's coming. With everything said, I think this is the best time in the past 20 years to be a Sonic fan, without a single doubt in my mind. Okay, maybe 1 or 2. But better than Colors, better than Generations, perhaps even better than Mania. That is the level I'm at with Sonic Frontiers. Not just because I'm excited and I think the game's flawless or something, but because I've been able to analyze and reason with everything I've been presented, as well as the community opinion, and stay happy with the state we're in, with no strings attached. Flaws. Strings. Flaws are not strings. They're not attached. I can't remember the last time I ever would have been saying that. Unfortunately not with Mania, because as masterful as that game was, it was forced to be tied to and supplemented, dragged down, by a game so much lesser that it's widely considered the ugly bastard of the franchise, ruining just a little bit of the magic that Mania brought forth. But here, this time, there's nothing of the sort, really. Today I stand here with a clear conscience, knowing that Sonic the f***ing Hedgehog is back. And nobody who knows what they're talking about can take that away from me. If the second Sonic movie was a modern retelling of what made Sonic special, Frontiers is going to be an entire speech about how it can proceed to be special. So with that sentiment, let's finally answer the obvious question. The elephant in the room, if you will. Why is the marketing of Sonic Frontiers such a sloppy, inept pile of garbage? One that will only negatively affect your opinion of the game if it's what you choose to stick to. It misrepresents the material it's promoting by refusing to provide enough of it to comprehensively understand its unique goals, purposes, and choices. It lives and dies by the mentality that showing less is more because ambiguity generates curiosity and hype, which is all you need to succeed in this world. The layout of the IGN First videos absolutely encompassed this. They showed us around 7 whole minutes each of uninterrupted footage of the game without letting us understand the goal or point in any of it. They believed that simply knowing certain things were just in the game was enough to birth excitement and praise, with your grind rails and your running and your puzzles and your Ubisoft towers and your aimless exploration and your subpar, lazy combat. It doesn't matter how much uncut footage you give us if you're not going to show us what ties it together and what that means. There's just no nice way to put it. The marketing of Sonic Frontiers failed the game. It crashed harder than a drunk driver into a family of 5. Even now, with proper under-a-month pre-release marketing underway, and full promotional videos detailing the actual purpose of gameplay, it still feels like a key aspect of marketing is missing from Sonic Frontiers. It's difficult to say what, because, like I said, I'm no expert, but if I could try and pick it out of a list of what resonates with me in advertisement, it's personality, never mind consistency. I know that's a corny thing to say, but I really do think that with more soul, this all could have changed. Imagine if those IGN videos started out, segued, and ended with cool, specifically made 2D or 3D animations. Imagine if they bridged the gap between gameplay segments to have Izuka and others talk about what's going on and what it means for the game. Imagine if, from this, those videos were subsequently paced in a much more exciting way, consequently being less uninterrupted footage, but infinitely all the more engaging and comprehensive for it. Imagine all the cool little segments they could do with some neat editing and appealing visuals to represent the confidence and personality of the game. Even I did this with that short AMV representing I'm here, no matter how poorly edited it was. Rather than just placing it on our screens, they could have given us a damn good show. When I say I want personality in the marketing, this is what I mean. I mean imagination and ambition. Not complacency. Not mediocrity. So, that's just about everything up till September 18th, while I finish writing the script for this video. I have never had an experience with a video game, let alone one that isn't even out yet, quite like I have with Sonic Frontiers. While it's been a bumpy ride, I think it's safe to say that we're at a prime time for a Sonic renaissance, and excitement for the next game is at an all-time high. It brings me more excitement than I can even express to have been on this unstable, frankly unsafe rollercoaster ride with like-minded people all around and, of course, my friends. I believe this game has redeemed itself and shown us what it truly is, even so long after its wet stain of a first impression. We started with directionless, empty gameplay with no context or information, but we've ended up in a place where we can understand what's going on and how it all came to be. It means we can sympathize. It's just up to those that wrote it off in June to do the digging and find what caused that redemption. And, well, that actually brings me to a very satisfying conclusion, because doing the digging is entirely why I made this video. The purpose of me writing and producing this was to show those who haven't kept up since June, those outside the fanbase, friends, family, colleagues, to try and convince them there's so much more beyond that shitty gameplay trailer, something worth being excited for. Sonic Frontiers is a game that results to more than just the sum of its parts, and I hope I've done a good job showing you why. With all of that said, thank you for sticking around this long. You really have no idea how much I appreciate it. And hey, while you're here, why not leave a like or subscribe? Maybe even leave a comment telling me about your journey with Frontiers. Are you excited or still unsatisfied with the direction it ultimately took? I'm all ears. I can't exactly promise you'll receive more of this content, if any at all, but sharing your thoughts tells me that I could entertain and provoke ideas from at least one person watching this video. I put a lot of myself into this, if you couldn't tell, and I want to see how that resulted, for me and for those watching. Alright, I think I've done enough talking. I'm gonna go lick windows and drool in front of a blank screen now. Maybe a while after the game releases, I'll make another video talking about how Frontiers stacks up to previous games in the franchise. But until then, I think I've had my fill of content creation. See you later, dicks. Special thanks to Psych for his video on how Sonic Frontiers rebuilt its reputation, the CurieBox12 for inspiring my content creation, King K, because he's a great content creator, Tails channel for being a reliable news source, Beats for all of his videos and contributions, Ruben925 for his 5-minute gameplay video back in June, and a special thanks to @Sonic_Frontier on Twitter for basically being the cornerstone of news for this game. You are a hero for this community, and I hope you'll be recognized for all the work you did for us. And a special thanks to everyone else on the list.